The rain was heavy on the roof of the motel. It hammered against the metal, masking the sound of my footsteps. I held my breath. My heart was beating so loud, I was afraid the enemy squad downstairs could hear it. I checked my magazine. 12 rounds left. That was it. 12 rounds of armor-piercing ammo between me and the grave dot in my backpack sat the target. A golden lion statue. It was heavy, it was beautiful, and it was worth a fortune. But right now, it felt like a curse. I heard the wood creak on the stairs. They were coming up. Asterisk. Check the hallway, a deep voice said. The sound was muffled by the tactical headset, but clear enough. I leaned around the corner, just a fraction. A laser sight swept across the peeling wallpaper. Green light. High-tier equipment. These guys were not scavengers. They were hunters. I pulled the pin on my last grenade. I did not throw it immediately. I counted silently. 1, 2, 3. I rolled the grenade down the hall. Boom. The explosion shook the dust from the ceiling. Shouts erupted. Man down. Man down. Now was my chance. I did not wait. I swung out from cover, my rifle raised. A figure emerged from the smoke, coughing, trying to raise his weapon. My first shot cracked the silence. A hit. He folded, but there was another. Asterisk bullets shredded the doorframe next to my head. Splinters flew into my face. I scrambled backward, sliding across the dirty tiles into the bathroom. He's cornered, they yelled. I looked at my watch. 5 minutes until the raid ended. If I didn't extract now, I would lose everything. The lion, the gear, my life. There was a window. It was small, shattered, and looked out over a drop to the dumpster below. It was a risk. A huge risk. But the hallway was a death trap. I vaulted. The air rushed past me as I fell. I hit the trash bags with a sickening thud. Pain shot up my legs, my vision blurring red for a second. Broken? No, just bruised. I groaned, forcing myself to stand. Asterisk, I limped toward the extraction point near the crashed truck. The rain was getting harder now, turning the ground into mud. Every shadow looked like a sniper. Every rustle of the bushes sounded like a predator. 100 meters. I heard a crack in the distance. A bullet whizzed past my ear, snapping the air. Sniper, keep moving, I whispered to myself. Don't stop. I zigzagged, my stamina bar flashing red. My lungs burned. The extraction smoke was green. It was right there. 50 meters. Another shot. This one hit my armor, knocking the wind out of me. I stumbled, but kept running. I dove behind the sandbags of the extraction zone. Asterisk. The timer appeared on my visor. 10 seconds. I aimed my rifle at the tree line, waiting for the sniper to push. But nobody came. The rain washed the mud from my visor. 5 seconds. I clutched the bag straps tight. The weight of the golden lion pressed against my back. 3, 2, 1. The screen faded to black. The raid was over. I was alive. And I was rich. The screen faded back in. The safe, warm light of the warehouse replaced the gray rain of the farm. I sat back in my chair and let out a long breath. My hands were still shaking. The adrenaline was fading, leaving a dull ache in my shoulders. I looked at the screen. Extracted. The inventory menu opened with a satisfying click. My stash was full of junk, but the backpack held the prize. I dragged the item into the main stash. The golden lion. It shimmered on the screen. It looked perfect. No scratches. No blood. Just pure profit. Asterisk, I opened the market terminal. The numbers scrolled by fast. Everyone was buying ammo. Everyone was selling junk. Then I listed the lion. I typed in the price. 1 million cone. My finger hovered over the sell button. I hesitated. For a second, I remembered the player I killed in the hallway. He'd probably needed this money too. He probably had 0 comb left. I clicked the button. Sold. The cash register sound effect rang out. My balance shot up. I was back in the game. Asterisk, I began to strip my weapon. The barrel was hot. The suppressor was damaged. I needed to repair everything. I dragged the empty magazines out of my rig. Then I saw it. Something small was tucked into the corner of the rig's pocket. I hadn't noticed it during the raid. I must have panic looted it from the dead body in the motel. I hovered my mouse over it. My eyes went wide. It was a key card. A red key card. Armory command room key. I sat up straight. This wasn't just loot. This was an invitation. This key was worth millions. The loot inside that room, that was worth tens of millions. Asterisk. The smart play was to sell the key. Take the money. Run safe runs on the Valley map. But I wasn't playing to be safe. I took the money from the line sale. I bought a full set of Tier 6 armor. Heavy. Durable. I bought a thermal imager. I bought the best ammo money could buy. M61 rounds. The kind that ignore armor. I customized my fall. Short barrel for close quarters. 50-round drum mag. It looked ugly, but it hit like a truck. Asterisk, I put the red key card in my secure container. I checked my health. Hydration full. Energy full. Painkillers pre-dash, medicated. I moved the cursor to the map selection. The armory. The danger level was critical. I clicked. Start. The matching timer began to tick. 1 second. 2 seconds. I checked my magazine one last time. The motel was just a warm-up. The real fight was about to begin. The armory. The air here felt different. Stale. Cold. Dead. I spawned in the underground tunnels. It was pitch black. But not for me. I reached up and flipped down my thermal. Visor.WHIRR-. Click. The world turned into shades of gray and white. The darkness vanished. The cold concrete walls were dark gray. The lights overhead were burning white spots. I checked my fall. The 50-round drum magazine was heavy, shifting the balance of the gun. It felt good. It felt lethal. I began to move. Silent. Slow. A ghost in the machine. Asterisk, I heard them before I saw them. Heavy footsteps on the metal grate above me. Hold position. A voice echoed. It was a player squad. I crept up the ramp. Through the thermal lens, I saw their heat signatures. 3 of them. They were glowing bright white against the cold metal railing. They were holding an angle on the main hallway. They couldn't see me in the dark. But I could see every beat of their hearts. I raised the rifle. I didn't hesitate. Thump dash thump dash thump. The suppressed shots were rhythmic. Deadly. The first guy dropped. The second guy spun around, firing blindly into the shadows. My M61 rounds punched through his Tier 5 armor like it was paper. He collapsed. The third guy ran, but he couldn't hide from the thermal. 3 targets. 3 kills. Asterisk, I didn't loot them. Not yet. I had a bigger prize. I moved past the bodies, stepping over the shattered glass and spent casings. I reached the command room. There it was. The heavy blast door with the electronic lock. I pulled the red key card from my secure case. My hand trembled just a little. This was it. I swiped the card. Beep. The light turned green. The heavy hydraulic hiss of the door opening filled the corridor. It was loud. Too loud. Every player left on the map knew someone was opening the command room. Asterisk guy slipped inside and hit the button to close the door immediately. Thud. Sealed. Safe. I looked around. The room was untouched. I opened the weapon crate. Nothing special. Just attachments. I opened the safe. Cash. A gold bar. Good, but not amazing. Then I looked at the desk in the center of the room. Sitting there, right in the open, was a folder. A blue folder with a top secret stamp. Secret document. I gasped. This was the rarest item in the game. It was worth millions. It was worth more than my entire stash combined. I grabbed it. I shoved it into my secure case. Even if I died now, I was rich. Asterisk, but I didn't want to die. I wanted the gear 2. I looted the rest of the room. My bag was bursting. 80 kilograms of loot. I was heavy. I was slow. I checked the extraction points. The bunker exit was the closest. But to open it, I had to pull the lever outside. I checked my mag. 30 rounds left. I opened the door again. WEE-000. WEOO. The armory alarm started blaring. Red lights began to flash. The raiders were coming. The other players were coming. I injected a stamina shot. The screen went sharp. Time to go, I growled. I stepped out of the room into the flashing red lights and raised my rifle. The alarm was deafening. WEOO! WEOO! I tried to run, but my legs felt like lead. The loot weighed 80 kilograms. My stamina bar was grayed out. I wasn't running. I was lumbering. Like a tank. Contact front. 3 armory bots rounded the corner. Elite bots. They wore heavy armor and carried RPKs. I dropped to one knee. I didn't have the stamina to strafe. I had to trust my armor. Rat dash, a dash tat dash tat. Bullets sparked off my chest plate. The impact knocked the wind out of me. My vision blurred. I pulled the trigger. The foul kicked hard against my shoulder. Thump. Thump. 2 headshots. They dropped. Asterisk, I stepped over their bodies. The bunker lever was 20 meters away. But I wasn't alone. A grenade landed at my feet. Frag out. I didn't think. I just moved. I threw myself sideways, crashing into a stack of crates. Boom! Shrapnel pinged off my helmet. My ears were ringing. That wasn't a bot. That was a player. I peeked. Down the hall, near the lever, I saw him. A player in full samurai armor. He was holding the angle. He was waiting for me to rush. Asterisk. He had the position. He had the speed. But he didn't have my eyes. I reached into my rig. I pulled out a smoke grenade. 2 of them. I threw them down the hallway. Hiss. Thick gray smoke filled the corridor. It was a wall of nothingness. The enemy player started firing blindly into the smoke. Bang! 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 I smiled. To him, it was a blind wall. To my thermal visor, the smoke didn't exist. I stood up. Through the gray cloud, I saw his heat signature glowing bright white. He was reloading. I took a deep breath. I lined up the crosshair on his glowing head. Click dash thump. One shot. The white shape collapsed. I limped to the lever. I yanked it down. Clank. Bunker door opening. The announcer's voice boomed over the intercom. Now came the hardest part. The door took time to open, and every scavenger on the map was coming to this noise. I dragged myself toward the open bunker door. My character was groaning in pain. My hydration was 0. My energy was 0. I heard footsteps behind me. Fast ones. Someone with a knife. A rat trying to steal my loot at the last second. I turned. I didn't aim. I just hip-fired the last of my magazine. Click dash click dash click. Empty. The runner slashed my arm with a machete. I pulled out my pistol. Bang, bang. He fell right in the doorway. Asterisk, I crawled over his body. I fell into the extraction zone. The timer appeared. 5. I looked at my inventory. The secret document was safe. 4. My screen was pulsing red. I had 10 health points left on my chest. 3. I closed my eyes. 2. 1. Asterisk. The screen went black. Then, the summary music started playing. It was the best sound in the world. Raid successful. Total loot value, 12.5 million cone. I leaned back in my chair and took off my headset. My hands were sweating. My heart was still racing. I looked at the secret document in my stash. That, I whispered to the empty room, was a good game. 12 million cone. The number sat in the top corner of my screen. It was enough to buy anything. I didn't let the money sit. In Arena Breakout, money is just ammo you haven't fired yet. I opened the gunsmith. I selected the H416, the Mita assault rifle. I stripped it down to the receiver. I added the long barrel for range. The suppressor that cost more than a rookie's entire loadout. A variable zoom scope. 1x for close combat, 6x for sniping. Then, the armor. I bought the heavy samurai armor. It covered everything. Neck, chest, stomach, arms. It made me slow, but it made me a walking tank. I loaded my magazines with M995 ammunition. Each bullet cost 3,000 cone. Basically, I was firing gold coins. I was ready. Asterisk, I chose the Valley map. But not the normal version. I selected Forbidden Zone. This is where the big boys play. No scavengers allowed. Only operators with high-tier gear. Loading. I spawned on the East Ridge. The sun was bright, blindingly yellow compared to the dark armory. The wind howled through the trees. I moved differently now. I didn't scurry like a rat. I walked with purpose. I scanned the horizon with my high-power scope. Asterisk, I set up position on the cliffs overlooking the seaside. Villa. It was a fortress down there. Through my scope, I saw movement. A squad of 4. They were moving tactically across the courtyard. They looked like ants from up here. Usually, I would let them pass. But today? Today, I was the predator. I adjusted my scope. Zeroed for 200 meters. I took a deep breath. I held it. Crack. The shot echoed across the valley. The lead man dropped instantly. Asterisk, the other 3 didn't panic. They were pros. Smoke grenades popped instantly. Pop. Pop. A gray wall covered the courtyard. Then, the return fire started. Snap, snap, snap. Bullets whizzed past my head, hitting the rocks behind me. They knew exactly where I was. They had thermal scopes too. I ducked behind the ridge. My heart rate monitor spiked. Flanking, I whispered to myself. I knew they wouldn't just sit there. 2 would suppress me, and 1 would run up the hill to catch me. I pulled out a shock grenade. I waited. I heard the crunch of boots on gravel to my left. He was fast. Asterisk, I stood up and threw the shock grenade over the rock. Bang. A blinding flash. I swung my H416 around. The enemy player was stunned, his character holding his hand up to his eyes. He was wearing the same heavy armor as me. I held the trigger down. BRRRRT. The H416 screamed. The recoil was non-existent. My bullets chewed through his armor. He collapsed just feet away from me. But I made a mistake. I stayed out of cover too long. Thwack! A sniper shot from the villa below hit my helmet. My ears rang. My vision went double. My helmet's durability dropped to 0. I fell back into the dirt, gasping. Asterisk, I was alive, but barely. My helmet was useless. 1 more shot to the head, and I would lose the 12 million cone kit. I heard the other 2 pushing up the hill. They smelled blood. I looked at my inventory. 1 painkillers, 1 grenade, and half a mag of ammo. I was the Titan, but even Titans can fall. I pulled the pin on the grenade and held it in my hand. I wasn't going to throw it. I was going to wait until they were right on top of me. Come on, I whispered. Come and get it. The footsteps were loud now. Crunch. Crunch. They were right on the other side of the rock. He's healing. Push him. One of them yelled. Bad call. I didn't release the spoon of the grenade until they were 5 meters away. Ping. 1. 2. I stood up and tossed the grenade right over the top of the rock. It didn't even touch the ground. Boom. The airburst was perfect. It exploded right at head height. The concussion wave knocked me backward, but it decimated them. Asterisk, I heard screams. No shooting. Just the sound of pain. I forced my character to stand. My vision was swaying violently from the shock. I rounded the rock. Both enemies were on the ground. One was dead instantly from the shrapnel. The other was crawling, clutching his legs. He looked up at me. He tried to raise his gun. Click. His gun was jammed or empty. I didn't waste my expensive N995 ammo. I pulled out my pistol. Pop. The silence returned to the hill. Asterisk, I wanted to loot them. I could see their gear. Thermal scopes. Golden guns. Level 6 armor. Millions of cone lying in the dirt. I took one step toward the bodies. Zing. A bullet cracked right past my ear. The sniper in the villa. He was still watching. He knew I had no helmet. He was waiting for me to stop moving. If I looted those bodies, I was a dead man. I looked at the loot one last time. It was painful. It physically hurt to leave it there. But greed kills. Keep it, I muttered. Asterisk, I turned away from the bodies and ran into the forest. My character was in bad shape. My chest was red. My stomach was blacked out. I was losing hydration fast. My painkillers were wearing off. The screen started to pulse. Thump, thump. I found a bush and opened my inventory. I used my surgical kit. Zip, click, snap. The animation felt like it took forever. I watched the corners of my screen. Paranoid. I fixed my stomach. I drank my last juice. I checked the map. The extraction was on the other side of the map. Small factory. I had no helmet. My armor was at 20% durability. And every player on the map had heard the grenade. Asterisk, I moved through the forest, staying in the deepest shadows. I approached the small factory. It was quiet. Too quiet. I saw the extraction smoke. Red smoke. That meant it was a one-time use extract. Was it still open? I crept closer. Suddenly, I heard a bush rustle. Not a footstep. Just the sound of fabric brushing against leaves. A rat. A player with low gear, hiding in a bush, waiting for a big guy like me to walk by. He was between me and the exit. I couldn't rush him. One shot from his cheap shotgun would kill me without my helmet. I had to outsmart him. Asterisk, I reached into my bag. I had one empty magazine. I threw the magazine to the left, hitting a metal fence. Clang. The bush to my right exploded with gunfire. The rat panicked and fired at the noise. Bang! Bang! He revealed his position. I stepped out from behind a tree. I saw him. He was wearing a ska vest and a beanie. He looked terrified. I raised my H416. The thermal scope highlighted his head in bright white. Goodbye. I whispered. Thump. Asterisk. I didn't even check his body. I ran to the extraction zone. The timer started. 10 seconds. I looked at my character model in the menu. The expensive armor was shredded. The gun was dirty. The helmet was gone. I hadn't made a profit this raid. In fact, I lost money on ammo and repairs. But I was alive. And in Arena Breakout, survival is the only win that matters. The screen faded to black.